Committee to order on Monday, December 14th. The time is 7 p.m. and we are meeting via teleconference. As chairwoman of the Human Affairs Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. June, do you mind muting yourself? From you. Thank you. And I lost my spot. There's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom, and the meeting link can be found in the agenda as well as on the city's website. You can also join by telephone by dialing 1-929-205-6099. Meeting ID is 828-6245-8225, and the passcode is 800-794. The public may also view this meeting on Comcast Channel 16. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and the Nashua Public Library. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or Channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call. So let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Alderman Wilshire?
Thank you. Alderwoman Kelly.
I'm here. Malone, I can hear everyone.
Alderman Harriet Gathright.
I'm present and I'm in this room alone and I can hear everyone.
Alderman Clee.
I am here. I can hear everyone and I am alone.
Alderman Karen.
I am here. I can hear everyone and I am alone.
Alderman Wilshire is here. I can hear everyone and I am home alone. We have 5 members present.
Thank you. I also see in attendance Director Marchand, Messina. Is there anyone else on here that I'm missing?
Alderman Liu.
Alderman Liu.
Oh, Alderman Liu, thank you. And Mr. Adamson from the Police Department. I think that's it. Okay. So we're meeting tonight for a public hearing on FY22 Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Annual Plans. We meet annually to get any feedback, and so we will open this up for testimony from the public. Unless Carrie or Sarah want to say something before we go into it.
Hi, good evening, Carrie Skina. I'm the manager of the Urban Programs Department. We oversee the process that implements CDBG and home funds. So usually I just do a real quick introduction in case those at home aren't familiar with it. These are grant funds that the city receives on an annual basis. They're formula grants and they're distributed on certain demographics of the city. This year, we're starting the process with a public hearing to get input on what the year's priorities and needs are. Last year, we had just completed or we're in the midst of doing our 5-year consolidated plan. And so last year was kind of a big picture. And each year of that 5-year plan, we try to narrow it and address that particular year's needs. As the process unfolds, we'll be releasing applications for proposals. shortly, later this week or very early next week. And those will be due back at the end of January. They will be online applications this year, given the circumstances. We're not able to do those paper packets like we've done in the past. And we'll be using an outside vendor called JotForm. The city's used this for several other departments at this point. And we're not going to do a technical workshop on those applications this year, but we're available by email and phone to walk people through. It will be similar to another process that's open right now, which is the Citizens Advisory Commission. And those applications are for operating costs of nonprofits. That application is due January 6th. So I just want to call attention to the fact that they're not the same deadline this year. We're separating it out just to line up better with meeting dates. And if, again, any questions, people can reach out to me at the Urban Programs Department or my staff. And we've gotten several questions and have been very responsive walking people through.
Thank you for that overview. Okay. I'm going to call for testimony in favor of, oh, it doesn't say a number, but we'll call for testimony in favor. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in favor? Okay, we're going to go to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak against? I don't know if we even have any public on here, but we're going to keep going. And then I will call again for testimony in favor. And one last time for testimony in opposition. Okay. Seeing none, we can declare the public hearing closed at 7:07. All right, so we can go right into our regular meeting here. And the first thing on our agenda is public comment. Lori, we don't need to recall roll or anything, do we?
No.
It's not in my outline, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on any of the legislation we'll be discussing this evening? If so, just raise your hand. I don't think I see anyone. Okay. Presentations,
We have none.
communications.
We have a communication from Carrie Skeena, UPD manager, regarding the FY22 annual action plan development. And we have another communication from Carrie Skeena, UPD manager, relative to Resolution 2091, the lead hazard reduction grant, 5.7 million.
Thank you. If there's no objection, I will accept these communications and place them on file. Unfinished business.
We have none.
New business resolutions.
Before us this evening, we have Resolution 2089 relative to the acceptance and appropriation of $30,345 from the United States Department of Justice into Police Grant Activity 2020 Justice Assistance Grant, multi-jurisdictional. I would make a motion to recommend final passage by roll call.
The motion is for final passage. Mr. Adamson, did you want to quickly speak on this?
Sure. So this is a federal pass-through grant. It's good for 3 years. So it expires in the fall of 2023. I believe it's September 30th it expires. And we share this with Manchester. Manchester is the fiscal agent for it. But we manage the funds that obviously go to Nashua. And the funds, I know I've spoken on this on the past, but the funds are to pay for equipment that's not budgeted for. It pays for conferences and seminars that aren't budgeted for in the training budget. as well as overtime that is not budgeted for. So community events, National Night Out, city block parties. It pays overtime for officers to be able to attend that. I think that's pretty much it. The only caveat to it, in the last few years, it's changed. You used to be able to include fringe benefits in our award, but we're no longer able to do that. So we just absorb that into our budget now.
Thank you very much. Does anyone from the committee have a question or comment on this piece of legislation? I see Alderman Clee, please.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just have a quick question. I just want to clarify. I know that this is something that we get with Manchester and that they're the fiscal agent and so on, but this $30,345 is specifically for Nashua, correct? It's not the entire grant.
Correct. That's that's national.
Okay, you froze, so but I think you answered my question. So thank you so much.
Does anyone else from the committee have a question?
I had a question. Alderman Liu?
Yes, Alderman, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Adamson, when you said it doesn't include fringe benefits, did you mean like the money can pay for overtime, but any benefits that accrue from the overtime, that becomes a cost to the city?
Yes. So your pension and
I see.
Medicare and such. Yes. And I apologize if I'm glitchy on my end. I saw that it froze a little bit, so.
Okay with me. You sounded fine. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, you were very clear on that response. I think we're okay. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, can the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion for final passage, Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Harriet Gathright,
Yes.
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderman Karen,
yes,
and Alderman Wilshire votes yes. We have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion passes. Thank you.
Next before us this evening, we have Resolution 2091 relative to the acceptance and appropriation of a $5.7 million lead-based paint hazard reduction grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I'd like to make a motion to recommend final passage by roll call.
The motion is for final passage by roll call. I don't know if Director Marchand or Ms. Skeena want to speak to this quickly, and then we can take any questions.
Sure, this is Carrie Skeena. So this is a grant that it's actually a competitive grant, unlike the one I just described a few moments ago. Typically, they used to be good for 3 years. This award is about 3.5 years. It's 42 months. And it's obviously the largest yet. This is our 4th grant, and it's about double the size of our current grant, which is winding down in about a week or two. So the timing is perfect for it. We'll be able to continue services straight through. We've been doing enrollment under our current grant, even though we ran out of money, in the hopes that we would be refunded. So we actually have a lot of qualified units in the pipeline and ready to go. This will be a much more intense and higher production program. So we will be trying really hard to get the word out in the community to enroll units. It's to protect children, young children under 6 from the hazards of lead paint. We can do some other healthy homes work when we go into those units. So if there's minor air quality or very minor code and safety issues, we can sometimes address that. That dollar amount's only about $3,500, so we're not doing huge work with it on the healthy home side. And we partner with a lot of, especially community health, who does the testing for children. And there is a very large concern right now, especially with the pandemic, the amount of time children are now spending in their homes. And that maybe also people are putting off those well care visits and not going to the doctor as much. So we feel like when things kind of lift, and we may see a flood of additional poisoned children. So we're hoping again to get that message out. I always try to take the opportunity to encourage parents to get their children tested for lead paint exposure. There's typically no symptoms, and a blood test is the only way to know.
Thank you. Questions on this piece of legislation?
Yes.
Sorry, Alderman Wilshire. I'm like
Thank you.
toggling. Please go.
So Carrie, do you have an estimate of how many units you can do with 5.7 million?
We are going to aim for about 210 units. We hope to exceed that. But with the budget, we've increased the amount that we'll be able to give per unit. Unlike the grants that we've had more recently, because funds were so tight, we had been reducing it, making it very difficult for enrollment. But as we know, costs just keep going up. So, you know, we're happy to say that we'll be able to give a little bit more grant money to each property, as well as do a lot more units.
Terrific. Thank you for that. And congratulations on getting this grant. That's huge for the city. And it really does take care of a lot of our older housing stock. So thank you and congrats.
Thank you.
Are there other questions and comments? Alderman Harry Gathright.
Question, what is the procedure for folks to apply for that?
If I may. So we do the enrollment through the city directly through urban programs. We used to have paper applications, and we're trying to also convert that over to have some online availability for people to complete those applications. But they could call the main number at urban programs, or they could shoot us an email. And, you know, like I said, even despite this pandemic, these last many months, we've been doing tons of intake. And we're really flexible about how people get the information to us. So, you know, some people aren't super tech savvy. They can take a picture on their phone of the documents that we need and send it to us through an email that way. And, you know, we'll work through step by step with them. The funds are targeted toward housing units that are occupied by low-income households. So we can do both owner-occupied properties if those owners are low to moderate. And we can also do investor properties where the tenants are low to moderate income.
I just raised my hand and I'm chairing the committee. Sorry, guys, it's been a long week already. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question before I? June, are you looking to ask a question? I saw you come off mute.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
thank you. I just wanted to voice my agreement with Alderman Wilshire. Carrie, this is a great grant for you to get, and I'm glad to hear that you were continuing to take applications, even though you weren't quite sure you had this. So this really puts you steps ahead in order to continue this very, very important program for a lot of our inner city homes and real elderly homes throughout the city. So thank you for all your efforts and your staff as well.
Thank you,
Thank
Alderman.
you.
Anyone else? Okay, so I had a question. I know I talk about this every year, but if you could refresh my memory. So do you, if you're an investor and you want to go do this, are you actually able to bring something back on the market that wasn't there, or does, like you had said, it has to be occupied?
So this, for the lead paint program, we are prioritizing occupied units because we want to target the funds to where children are living and could be exposed to hazards. We can do vacant units under that program. They can't be the bulk of what we do, and really they're the lowest priority. Typically what will happen is we'll get a multifamily property and maybe one unit is vacant, and then the rest are occupied, which is really a good situation because then we can rotate tenants through the vacant unit temporarily while the work has to be done in each unit. I think the other program you were speaking of is our housing rehab, which we had piloted and we're doing this year as well now, that our second year of rehab for investors. And that program, we really do want to see those units occupied by low-income people unless they really have a tenant just ready to go, because we have to report it in our federal system and show that the unit went to a low-income household, and we can't report it until it's occupied. And we do pair the two programs together as best we can, and leverage all the funding that we receive.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just wanted a refresher. I know that we're trying really hard to get as much affordable housing on the market and safe opportunities for this people to live there. So I appreciate all the work you're doing, and thank you for going after this grant. It's amazing the amount that you'll be able to do with it. So
Thank you.
gonna make one more time that nobody would like to comment. Okay.
Quick
Hi,
question.
Director Marchant, can I make one quick comment?
Sure. Go ahead, Director Marchant, and then Alderman Liu, I did see you.
Oh, sorry, Alderman Liu. I just wanted to say this was a grant that Carrie and her team applied for in the kind of the depths of COVID. And it was a massive amount of work and effort, and to be awarded a grant that's almost twice as much as the one we have right now is a huge effort. And so Carrie and her team deserve some very strong recognition for this. And we're very happy to be able to bring this to the community, because it is a grant that feeds all the local contractors directly. We pay this money back into the community. So it helps not only the units, but also with jobs. And so those are two amazing things that are happening right now. So just kudos to Carrie and her team. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Marchant. Alderman Liu.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I understand this is for lead paint, and so are these funds only for the removal or the abatement of lead paint? What if somebody wanted to do more? Is there anything other than the lead paint removal that the funds can be directed toward?
Yes, so this grant does specifically target lead hazards. We actually just received bids. We did an RFP. We contract out for inspectional services. It's a very specific license by the state. And an inspector goes into each unit and tests every painted surface. So that report comes back to us, and we develop the scope of work based on where those hazards are. These funds can only pay for and touch those areas where there's lead paint hazards. We do have that small bit of healthy homes money that comes with this grant. And I had said that's about $3,500 per unit that we can address some other small issues. But then we do try to pair it with our existing housing rehab. So we do have an owner-occupied housing rehab program and an investor. They're both funded by CDBG, which is a different HUD grant. So again, we do braid that together. And then we also leverage the state of New Hampshire recently enacted a lead paint loan fund, which is, I believe it's a 0% interest loan for investors as well. And so we, kind of pull those funds in to match ours, because it's actually very expensive to do hazard abatement.
Thank you.
Are you all set, Alderman Liu?
I am.
Great. Lori, did you have another question?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can call the roll.
Okay, the motion before us is to recommend final passage of Resolution 2091. Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Wow, what's my list? I just moved my paperwork. Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Harry Gathright.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire votes yes. That's 5 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion carries. Okay. New business ordinances,
We have none?
tabled in committee.
None?
Would anyone like to give general discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, I guess, for Carrie. I was hoping she would stick around for a minute. Carrie, are you still with us?
Yeah, I see her. She's still there.
Now, you mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if I heard you right, but the community grant, is that the one that's due on January 6th?
Yes, the Citizens Advisory Commission, which used to be called Review and Comment, for those
Okay.
who still remember it that way. Those applications came out a couple weeks ago, and they are due January 6th by midnight.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And what about CDBG?
CDBG will be due January 28th, also by midnight, and those applications should be available by the end of this week, if not,
Okay.
by Monday.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Any other general discussion?
Just, and what about this particular, what about the lead paint?
It's a good question. Ms. Skina?
The lead paint grant, we hope to start, we're aiming for an effective start date of January 4th. And again, that would run for 42 months, so 3.5 years.
Oh,
So
there's
that's rolling, there's no deadline.
To apply there, no, we would take applications throughout that entire 3.5 years.
Perfect. Alderman Liu, I'm sorry, did you want to add an additional?
not at all. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else in general discussion? Okay. I will open it up again to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment? I don't see anybody. It's a lot easier when you're in the chamber. You can physically see people. And then we will move on to remarks by Alderman. Alderman Clee. And then Alderman Wilshire.
I think Alderman Wilshire had her hand up before me, so I will defer to her and then I will speak. Thank you.
You're kind. Anyway, I just wanted to again thank Carrie and her team for bringing in that grant. That's huge money. And during a global pandemic, kudos to you and your team for doing that. Thank you.
Alderman Clee.
I should have gone first because that's exactly what I wanted to say. Anyways, no, I do. I really want to thank them for doing this. And I want to go a tiny bit further and thank Director Marchant and her staff for all of the grants and so on that they have gotten for us throughout the years. I know that they helped me with trying to find a grant for the Lock Street project. I'm going to be knocking on their door for something called Kaboom, but they do a phenomenal job and we would be lost without them. So I think Director Marchant was right. They all deserve bows and it's under her leadership. So thank you so much.
Anyone else? Checking. I won't duplicate, but I feel the same way. Carrie and Director Marchant do an incredible job, not only at looking for grants, but also helping everybody put together a plan to make it affordable. As Ms. Skina was talking about, like they're ready to work with you, figure out, what kind of package they can put together to help. So I'm also very appreciative of that. So, okay. If nobody else. Okay. Possible non-public. There's none. And do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Sorry, I was on mute for the last motion.
It's fine. The motion is to adjourn by roll call. Any discussion?
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Cleaver. Clee. I went a little too far. Alderman Clee.
That's okay. I've oftentimes started to call his name and I went to say yes. So yes. Yes.
Alderman Harry Galbraith.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yeah.
Alderman Wilshire votes yes. You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion passes and we are adjourned at 7:29 p.m. Thank you, everyone.